Hello everyone, Bertina Amy here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would do a Dollar Tree DIY mermaid wreath. Okay, so I actually picked up two of these mermaid tail wreaths from Dollar Tree last year, and I didn't get around to making a wreath with it. So I'm gonna just take one, and I thought I would go ahead and use their aqua burlap ribbon. We'll fold it in half both ways. Alright, so what I was thinking instead is not gluing these pieces together. I was thinking of just going through like this and then just kind of locking it in like this. And then I can always glue this to whatever later, if that makes sense. I think it needs to be like, yeah. Okay. I'm just going to fold it now, and then once it's wrapped, I can glue it in the back. I hope that makes sense. So this needs to go like this, and this. Okay, so I can do with this piece. This is the longer piece, so that's why I'm wrapping it again. Okay, so then right side over the left. Okay, and then pull that through. And then pull that through over. Okay. This might end up looking a bit like a pineapple too. So if you prefer a pineapple look, feel free to get the colors that you like. But I'm planning on using different colors of ribbon to hopefully look less like a pineapple. But now I'm like having a hard time unseeing the pineapple. So hopefully I can fix that as we go along. All right, so it's right over left, and the reason why this looks bunched up is because of the curve. So just keep that in mind. It'll look wider when it's open, when it's like a going outward type of thing. And you know what? I wrapped it around the wrong spot, so I'm going to undo this, put it over here, but keep in mind I'm doing the inner ones because I want the outer ones to be the different colors. So it's going to be here, here, but you get the idea of how I wrapped this one. I'm going to repeat that here instead off camera, do this one off camera, and then I'll come back for this one. Okay, so here's my mermaid tail so far with these two panels wrapped. What I did want to point out is actually I've realized that it's probably better that you cut them in half first, because if you want this to seem seamless once we bring in the other piece in, we can actually wrap this around the other bars and glue it. And I'll show you that on camera later on too. So now I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this part and how this is going to come into play as well. Because I had this idea and I hope it turns out well. But anyway, I'm going to turn this way. So the difference with this one is, okay, so I've got plenty of ribbon here. Okay. The difference with this one is that I'm going to wrap it around here instead of using these two bars as my guide. I'm using these two bars as my guide, and I'll show you how I intend to finish off the tail to a degree, I guess you could say. So, all right, let's go ahead and just wrap this around. Now, as I wrap around this section here, obviously I don't have the other tail behind it to make sure it's attached on these edges, but I'm not going to worry about that because I could always take scrap and then go around the other side. I hope that makes sense. You'll see on camera anyway. So I'm just going to wrap this like it doesn't matter, as though this is the only piece I'm using rather than... Okay, hang on. Let's see. got to fix this side because it's got to go under and around and over, and I didn't quite follow through with that, so instead I just go around like this, like that. Yes, like that. Oh wait, you know what, but then there's gonna be this gap, which I don't want. This big gap right here we don't want for sure, so I'm gonna backtrack it. Didn't even think about that. Okay, so maybe I can do, let's see here. Like that, and then I can go this part. This is going to be the, so the other piece is going to go over top. No, or is it going to go under? I think this one's going to have to go over top. So we do want as much of this wrapped as possible. So right over left. See if I can get this to turn around. Okay. So this needs to go around once more, like that, so that I can start wrapping. I think that is better. So like I said, I don't want that gap, and there still kind of is one. Let's see, just kind of maneuver it a little bit. It doesn't, I'm not looking for perfection, and besides, I'm probably going to tie something around there anyway once this is all said and done. Like I am going to further embellish this. This is just my base, so just keep that in mind. I push through. Probably don't even need to, but I'm going to. See if I can turn it around. The goal is to push it through that tiny space there. Like that. And then okay, and then like that. If I need to, I can glue it down. So the important thing is that the bars are not showing. So, okay. I'm leaving the tails for now, or at least some excess tails, because at some point I'm going to glue it over top the next piece. And okay, so I'm taking these two ribbons. I'm going to go ahead and glue them together with hot glue. Just going to put clips on here. Give that a minute. Okay, so I made a mistake. I'm not going to actually glue these together because instead I'd rather leave them loose so that when I combine the two pieces together, I can cover any exposed wire by leaving it loose. So I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this and this off camera, and then I'll come back and wrap this one on camera, combining the two together, and I'll explain my plans for the tail, or the very tail end. I'm still kind of figuring something out with this one, and I really hope it turns out really awesome because we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I'll be right back. Okay, so here's what I have so far with the extra piece. And I do have to layer this one over top of the other because of the way that this section had to be wrapped. So that's going to go over top like that. And again, these bars are going to be wrapped by the fact that I didn't glue this stuff down, so I'm going to be able to fix that. But I did have to put these one over top the other because I'm going to take this stuff and wrap it around this. I hope that makes sense. So let me grab these ribbons here. right. So we're going to fold this in half and fold this in half. I'm quite liking the colors. It would have been really awesome if this was like more of a turquoise. That would have been amazing, but I don't have turquoise. Of course, I could just paint it, or spray paint it or something like that, but I frankly don't want to deal with spray paint. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. My space is limited, unfortunately, but all right, so this is going to go around here as though it's one bar instead of two, and then I'm going to wrap around, pull this through. So I think the one that's going to be more challenging is, especially because like I said, I don't want any of the bars to be showing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this off camera, but basically what I'm going to explain here really quick. So the bar is tucked underneath. So I'm going to make sure that I'm always going over this bar, because otherwise without it, I can't make the wrapping continue, if that makes sense. But I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this. I just wanted to show you how I was going to do it. Then I'll show you what I'll do to connect the rest of it, and then we'll talk about the very tail as well. All right, so here we are with the piece, and I'm just going to pull the ribbons through like this so I can glue it down. Repeat that with all of the pieces, at least for the upper half first. And these pieces. And you can see like the wire wreath form is not like, they're not all exactly, they look basically exactly the same, but it's kind of hard to get it perfectly aligned. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and glue all this down off camera. I'll be right back to show you what I do for the others. All right, so all this is now hot glued into place, and we're just going to start finishing off this other edge here. So just going to pull this piece over like that, and let's see, I think I should pull this through like that. All right, the aqua is going to be fine, and then so we're just going to pull the blue pieces, or the not so bright pieces, let's say. Okay, so all the pieces are pulled. I'm going to turn around. We're going to do this section last. Sorry about that. Okay, and the shorter pieces we don't need as much as there is. I just wanted excess just in case. So I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue these down. Take one of my clips here to hold it into place. We'll trim off the excess. All right, I'm going to do the rest off camera, and I'm going to cut off the excess. Okay, then let's not forget this section. Okay, so now we're coming down to the tail, and I want to make sure these strands are pulled through properly. So I do want it to come through. Hold on one second. Let me pull this through here. And this one I'm going to pull through here. And while I'm at it, I think I'm going to go ahead, because I want this bar wrapped as well. I'm just going to run this through. That way this part is covered. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. Run this through this side if I can. It seems pretty nice and taut, actually. Let me see if I can get it through here. Okay. Okay, we can cover up as much of the imperfections as possible. You don't have to do this part. I'm doing it because, you know, you can consider me a bit of a nutcase about this. You don't have to do this part. And then this part I'm going to put through here. There's a bit more of a gap on one side over the other, and that's totally fine. Okay, so that is actually just about what I wanted to be able to do. Okay, there we go. Okay. The idea again is just to wrap around the wire. So I'm just going to add a bit of glue here and here. And add this. And we can cut that and that. I think that works. There we go. Next, I'm going to take this twine that I got last year from the Living Shoreline at Dollar Tree. I haven't seen this stuff this year, anything to do with nautical type of decor yet, so I'm hoping it's still coming, but if not, feel free to use regular twine, which they still have, but I really want to use this. I'm really trying to tie in any shades of colors that make me think of nautical. So basically how I'm going to tie this on is I'm just going to make a knot, and that sounds so bland, but that's what I'm going to do. And this is going to be glued to the back when I'm done. And all I'm going to do is, because this is not perfectly aligned, I'm going to take this and, you know, off camera, I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, but I'm basically just going to take this, wrap it around here, like so, and just keep going. And I might not even need to glue that to the back after all, because it looks like it's just going to hang in there. So I'm just making a big loop, going around and pulling the tail through. Hope that makes sense. And I'm gonna keep going. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go all the way around to the other side, and then I'll do these pieces. I'll do all this off camera. So here it is with the twine all wrapped around. Now I want to take scrap paper. I'm just going to trace this bottom part of the tail. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, roughly about like there. This is the fabric I want to use. I think I'm going to go ahead and just cut this out. And I'm using the chalk writer from Dollar Tree to trace around my design. So you can see my design traced. I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Okay, then I'm going to have to iron this out. So I checked out the size of this thing, and I noticed it was slightly too big and it's a little bit too big, but just a little too small to hem it. even with hot glue. I just need to trim it down just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks so much better already. And I think we can make that work. So I think the easiest way to attach this is going to be from the back end rather than like just doing it this way. All right, and I think make more sense to just kind of just do that. And I could even cut that excess off now, like so, right? And then I think that's looking quite pretty. And also this fabric, in case you're wondering, I got this years ago, so I already had this on hand. So, and it's not Dollar Tree, but I think I got in a pack from Joann Fabrics. Anyway, I want to embellish this even further. I bought one of these off Temu and just kind of cutting these to be shaped a certain way. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Cut it. And just going to be kind of willy-nilly here. I just want it slightly longer so it's got a little bit of overhang. Let me try again. So willy-nilly and slightly longer than the actual tail. Okay, so that's one section that takes care of those two. And then I'm not worried about making this look perfect, but I wanted to create sort of like a 3D, effect of a sort. And then I want the center one. Okay, so if I have that one there, and then this one here, and I'm not just gonna glue it on. I probably should have attached that first before attaching the back. Whatever. Either way, I'm gonna make it work, no matter which way it should have been. So think about there. Okay, after some thought, I think I know how I'm gonna attach this. First, what I want is, if I know, say, for example, that I want this here to be the center, I'm gonna take some spare bit of twine, and I'm just gonna make 2 knots. 1 and 2. Trimming that much off. I will cut more of this off later, but I can always trim off more if I feel like things are just too long. Earlier, I was talking about how shimmery these things were, and I couldn't help but think of the song from Aladdin, you know, shining, shimmering, splendid. That's enough of that because I don't want to get in trouble. But anyway, all right, so I'm going to tie the center of this one. Center, knot it twice. I'm going to glue this in. In fact, I might not even need to trim that. And I think that'll do the job I want it to do. Oh my god, look at that. Like that. I'm just trying to give you a visual before I even apply it. So that's a good dab of hot glue. Oh yeah, that's cooled down. So now I'm going to cut it all the way, because the less I have of the bulk, actually, the better. More hot glue, and just going to tuck it in. You know, I know my stuff is probably considered weird, and hopefully that's the reason why, if you're subscribed, that's the reason why you are subscribed, is because my stuff is weird. Weird, unique, whatever. All right, more hot glue, and then tuck it in, tuck it in. like that. Okay, first really quick, I'm going to share with you what pieces I use to make the next part of my embellishments for this piece. Yesterday I was watching some TV show. I was watching a TV show with my husband, and I was like, let me just try to build like a decorative element to this piece. And so maybe this is fate. If you believe in that stuff, that's cool. I bought this pack from Dollar Tree, and I was intending on using this for my Cinderella pumpkin centerpiece that I made last fall, or close to winter, something like that. Anyway, I couldn't find the receipt for this because I ended up not using it, decided I was going to try to return it, and I couldn't find the receipt for it. So I thought, you know what? Why not put this to good use as a way to embellish this wreath? And I think it'll look super pretty. So I used basically all that you see remaining in this stuff, and then the stuff I knew I wasn't going to use, I just put in this plastic bag I still have. I repurpose old Ziploc bags, so I knew I didn't want to use these pieces because they're extra long, and even though the color works, I just knew I wasn't going to use it. Anyway, with Dollar Tree's pearls as well, and a bit of stretch lace also from Dollar Tree, and I used the blue so that it would coordinate. I made this, and I think it looks so pretty, you guys. And it's quite long. So you're probably thinking it looks like a necklace or a really long bracelet. That's basically what it is. And I used the bulk of most of the cord, and you saw that I still had extra. So the idea I had, guys, I thought pearls would be like absolutely perfect. And I don't think this is going to really showcase it too well based on my setup. But honestly, I don't know that I can go wrong with how I decide to incorporate this into my design. But the idea I had was to kind of drape this so it looks like the mermaid has a beaded necklace. So I thought I would do maybe like tie a knot where these two end or whatever, like just tie, because this is stretchy, so I can go, but yeah, not like this, right? And then just kind of drape it like a double. I think it's time to put a hanger on the back before I finalize this piece. So I'm just going to flip it around, and I have plenty of this twine from, I'm just going to give a little extra. I'm going to try to squeeze this through at least one of the bars inside first. Oh, okay. So this one, definitely. So I'm going to do not once, and then not twice. There we go. And then I do want it taut as possible, because I'm going to use this as a hanger. Let's see, hopefully it doesn't mess with the way that looks. You can kind of see it, but I mean, that's okay. And here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know which of these is your favorite. And a special shout out to my husband for helping me film this portion of the video. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.